Welcome back to the IU427 garage, everybody. I'm going to give you a little sneak peek of something upcoming. Turn it around and you guys can get a better look at it. This is the engine for the Gen 3 Coupe that we're doing. This is a Gen 2 Coyote with stacks, and I had buddy Anthony here today, and we were going through putting a bunch of stuff together, fabricating parts for it because we had some mismatching of some components on the car that just don't want to play nice together. But we're going to continue where we left off last week, and we're going to continue cleaning the King's Cobra. Welcome to tomorrow, everybody. I have worked the last couple hours. I think I started on the car maybe 3:30 in the afternoon. I've got most of the underhood stuff cleaned up, so I'm going to give you a little tip, especially if it's primarily fiberglass dust or just dust in general. Start with a paintbrush. I know we're not painting, but I have, you can use one of those cheap wooden handled chip brushes that they sell at the home center. I have a little brush that I use here to brush off parts when I'm fabricating parts. So basically just any paintbrush that hasn't been used for paint, and then just brush the dust off of all the frame members. So if you look underneath the hood here, it's not perfect by any means, but we're still going to be creating a little bit of dust in here, and so it'll get another wipe down before it goes home. So I went through and dusted everything off, and then after that I wiped down most of the flat surfaces that I knew I could wipe down without actually you know, getting too carried away. So, you know, first, last night we started with compressed air. We blew all this underhood area out with compressed air, and then today I just went after it with the paintbrush just to get all of the surface dust off. And what the paintbrush really does, it kind of just breaks the surface tension of the dust so that you're not continually wiping and wiping. Because if you dampen a rag, you know, use some type of spray cleaner and spray it on the rag and try to wipe it down, what happens is you just streak the dust. So this way the dust stays dry, and as you're dusting it off with the brush, most of it's going to fall to the ground, as long as you don't get carried away and get it all over everything. So I still have to clean like the under hood, so the bottom side of the hood, because there's some, you know, dust and debris on that, but I'm going to take care of that on the final wipe down before it goes home. And then what I did is I came into the interior and I started with the vacuuming. So I wanted to make sure that I got all of any of the debris that we had created when we made the holes for the windshield posts and stuff like that taken care of. I did that. While I was kind of at the dash, I went ahead and hooked up the clock to the reset switch. So if you remember, we've got a reset switch under the dash here. We've got the button for the speedometer over here. So they're on opposite sides of one another, but they make sense because the speedometer obviously is to the left, the clock is to the right, so it's pretty easy to identify which one's for which. I did set the clock. The battery is hooked up for the final time. We're going to go ahead and we're going to hook up the battery charger while the car is still here in our shop. But you know, I topped it off, I think, this past week, and so it should be fine. I've still got a little bit of vacuuming to do, like behind the seats there's a little bit of debris. I've got to get that. I did do the back wall, but I kind of just got everything that was kind of easy to get to. This was by no means the final cleanup of the car. Just trying to get the majority of the stuff up and out so that you know, it's not going to be such a chore when I go to, you know, give it a final wipe down before we send this thing home. Now, last night I think I showed you you know, the key fob and the wheel center and stuff like that. I did wipe down the dash, so it's looking really nice now. I wiped down the shifter and the shifter ball and the shifter boot and all that kind of stuff. I did take some leather and vinyl cleaner to kind of brighten up the seats. They were a little dusty, but I did vacuum them first. Out here, I did get the cover on the foot box over here, so that's done too. Tomorrow, I think what I'm going to do when I get home from work is I'm going to concentrate on the trunk. So last night, I went ahead and I hooked up the light, and I do have it working now, so you guys can see that. So as the trunk opens up, let me see if I can get you right over here at the corner so you can see the light come on. So light's not on, light's not on, light's on. So it works to turn the light off when the trunk is closed. Now you can see the little contraption I rigged up. This is by no means permanent because car still has to go to paint, so I wanted to get it functional for the car owner, but something that would be pretty readily disassemblable. Is that even a word? So what he's going to do when he takes this in for paint is he's going to drill out the rivets in our cover here. He's going to disconnect the wires that go to the light for the license plate, and then he's just going to pull those wires out through that hole, and then he can basically just leave everything else intact because he can just disconnect the trunk right here with the 2 bolts here and the 2 bolts on the other side and take the trunk deck lid off. But you can see I've got some cobwebs in the trunk, so this all needs to be vacuumed and cleaned up. I really haven't done anything since we're in there putting the trunk struts on, and so that's what I'm going to work on tomorrow. And then I may get to the wheel centers and spinners tomorrow. I've got to dig up another pool noodle because I want to put those behind the center caps so that we have a little bit of resistance when we got to put those on. I did disassemble the tri-spinners from the center caps, and I'm going to tell everyone this: when you get your Cobra kit, if you order the wheels from Factory 5 or whether you order them from Vintage Wheels or whatever, and if they come with spinners and the spinners are spun on to the center caps, remove them, because you're going to put those things away for the next 8 to however many months, and when you go to finally put them on, I've had some actually on Joel's car, one of the earlier cars that we did for the channel. 2 of his spinners were seized. They were locked on tight enough from when he bought the wheels that we couldn't get the centers out. I still have them upstairs. I did everything I could to try to get those things off and functioning. Eventually, if I need another spinner, the tri-wing assembly, I can cut the center out and reuse the tri-spinner, but I've just got them stored upstairs for right now. We ended up having to buy 2 spinners and 2 tri-wings or whatever you want to call those things. So that's what I'm going to work on tomorrow, I think. And then that should pretty much wrap up the cleaning of the car and maybe wrap up this video tomorrow. And then probably next week what we're going to do is I'm going to do a video on everything that needs to come off the car when it goes to paint, what items can stay with the chassis, what has to come off, what can stay, and kind of the order in which to do it, and those things that you'll probably want to leave on until you get the car to the painter, because there's a couple of things like that you can leave on the car until you get to the painter and then pull them off then. So I will see you guys tomorrow night, and we'll get that trunk and hopefully the tri-spinners for the wheels done. All right, this should be the final day working on the King's Cobra. The trunk is all vacuumed out. I got that taken care of when I got home from work today, and you can see it's all nice and clean and vacuumed. So everything in here is pretty much ready to go. We'll probably put all of the parts that are going back with the customer home in the trunk, and so that's all good. I think I mentioned yesterday that I did get the clock and the battery both hooked up, so I'm going to check the clock right now while I'm thinking about it and see if it is keeping time, and it looks like it's 4:20, and that's about what the clock is showing, so I think we're good there. The interior is looking really good. That got cleaned up yesterday. Still want to vacuum it one more time. I had my build manual out today because I was working on another video that you guys will probably see or have seen. It all depends on the sequence in which I release the videos. And I think next what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the car up in the air again, and I'm going to pull the wheels, and I'm going to put the wheel spinners on. I've got to go upstairs real quick and see if I've got another pool noodle, because what I like to do is I take the center cap right here, I put a pool noodle in the back so it's projecting out ½ inch or so, And then we put those in the back of the wheel, and then that pool noodle will keep the wheel center pushed forward in the center of the wheel so that we can get the spinners to go on. And then we're going to add a little bit of graphite spray. So if you don't want to use like anti-seize, which will work too, it's just a little messy, you can pick up some graphite spray, usually in the hardware section of the home center where they sell the door locks. So like the door locks you have on your house, the doorknobs and what have you, they sell graphite in a little spray can. It's about 4 ounces, and aerosol, and that's what you generally spray inside of your lock set to keep it lubricated. It works really well on those center caps so that the wheel tri-spinners will go on and not get seized, because both of those parts are aluminum, and after time there's a little bit of oxidation that might build up on the two mating surfaces, and then you're going to have a hell of a time getting them to come off. So either anti-seize or the graphite spray on those, and that'll ensure that you can get them off the next time. So let me get this thing up in the air and we'll work on getting the wheel centers put on. Even before you take the wheels off, this is what you're going to do. So for instance, these caps right here, these are Team 3 wheels. I take the pool noodle and I put it inside like this until it bottoms out. This pool noodle happens to fit inside, but even if yours doesn't, you should be able to taper the end of it so it fits inside of the center cap. And then you come over here to the wheel and you measure, and we've got about 2 inches before it hits the face of the axle. So I added 2 inches to this, and you can see I cut the pool noodle off. It's about 3.5 inches or so. So I'm going to cut 2 of those, one for this side of the car and one for the passenger side of the car. I'm going to do the same thing when I get to the front wheels. So basically, when I put this in the back of the wheel like this, that pool noodle is going to take up the space in between the face of the axle and the back of the cap and keep this firm and pushed against the wheel so that the spinners can go on. Now, depending on your wheels, your center caps may be different from one another. These happen to all be the same. Now, the difference with ours is actually in the spinner. We have some flat spinners. You can see they've got just a little bit of outward angle to them. And we have the deep angled spinners. These go on the back. Now, depending on who you get your wheels from, they may all thread on clockwise. But some of them make thread on counterclockwise. So when you install these on your car, for instance, if you're using the factory 5 wheels that you ordered with your kit, they are left and right dependent. So you cannot use a left spinner on the right side of the car. Well, you could, but then they might fly off. But what I'm getting at is you can't mix up the spinners with the center caps, because they thread a different direction from side to side on the vehicle. These all thread on the same way. These again are from Team 3, and I checked these when I pulled them apart, because as I told you last night, if you receive these with your kit, you want to make sure that you spin the tri-spinners off as soon as you get them, so that if they're stored away for a number of months, they don't seize themselves onto the center caps, and then you end up having to buy yourself new ones. I've got this center cap installed. I just put the wheel back on with the impact driver, although I had to take them off with the impact wrench. So they're just tight enough right now to hold the wheel on. And what I'm going to do before I put any of the covers or the spinners on is I'm going to torque all of the lugs to probably 80 foot-pounds. That seems to be about the center of where, you know, everybody tells you that they should be, somewhere between 70 and 90 pounds. So I just kind of go at 80 and leave it at that. But as I push on the center cap, you can see it springs back. So any pressure you put towards the center, it pushes it right back in place. These are actually tapered on the outside, so they kind of fit a little funny until you get the tri-spinners on there for the final time. But this one's in. I'm going to work my way around the car, do the passenger side next. Then I'll raise up the front of the car and do the front too. And then I'll bring you guys back as I get ready to torque the wheels and put the tri-spinners on. All right, so we're all done. The spinners are on the wheels. You can see why the more angled spinners go on the back, because you know, it looks cool. But in the front, if you were to put those on the front, they'd probably stick out past the edge of the tire. So that's why you just use the thinner ones up there. I think the ones you get with your Mark IV or your Mark V kit, they're all the same, the spinners anyway. But from Team 3 and some of the other companies, like for instance, there's a company that sells reproduction spinners for the Halibran Cobra 3 wheels that I have on Slytherin. And they're more of that angled, and they allow you to, you know, basically put them on the front too. That's the way you order them. But I like the ones I have simply because Halibran is printed on them. So I think, to me, they have more value. But so the spinners are on. The car is looking really good. And you know, remember, this is just a gel coat finished car. So, you know, you're going to have, you know, some of the imperfections in the seams and what have you, but that's not going to stop you from having a bunch of fun in the car. Well, you know, you decide maybe what color you want to have it painted. You know, not everybody has a picture of their finished car in their head. And, you know, even if you have a favorite color, sometimes those colors don't work well on a Cobra. Now, I've had this discussion before about paint and paint colors, and I always tell you, you know, trust your painter. If your painter's done enough of these cars, your painter will guide you in a direction that will allow you to find a color that you like or that you love, and tell you whether or not it's going to look good on the car. Because again, they've done just a ton of these, and they know what looks good. I left the color to Slytherin completely in the hands of Jeff Miller. I told him what I wanted. I told him what I wanted the car to look like, you know, because I had this vision in my mind of what I wanted it to look like. And he knocked it out of the park. He went down, he made the selections. He gave me the stripe, you know, the ghost stripe or whatever you want to call it in the car. And it's very subtle, but the stripe is there. I knew I wanted a stripe, I just didn't want it, you know, in your face. So finishing your car in gel coat and thinking about all these things for a while, I don't think is a bad choice. You know, I'm probably one of the extremes in that it took me, you know, 10, 12 years before I finally got paint on the car. But, you know, do it. You know, drive the car for a season. You know, if you're unsure about your build abilities, it'll give you a chance to wring the car out and take care of any of little issues that might arise. And some of those that you can't really get to with the body on, you can take care of when you pull the body off for final paint. So I'm a proponent of driving it in gel coat at least for a season, and then making your decision on you know what you want to do as far as paint. So I think we're going to leave this one here. I believe we're going to get one more video out of the King's Cobra, and that is I'm going to go around the car kind of as a tutorial for the car owner, and you know, show him and show you guys what all needs to come off the car when, you know, you take it to paint. Those things that you can leave on, those things that you can leave on temporarily but take off when you get to the painter, stuff like that. And when I say that, I mean stuff like the door handles. The door hinges are going to stay with the car while the doors come off, but you know, you can leave the door catches and the door latches, their lock assembly, on there until you deliver the car to the painter, and then just pull them off. Then it's, you know, just a couple of screws to pull those off, and then safely store those until, you know, the painter's ready to put the body back on the car. But we'll go all through that stuff and kind of a procedure on the way I do it when I'm doing a car that's been driven in gel coat. Because honest to God, this is not the first time we've delivered a car in gel coat. I think this will be the third. If you count Slytherin, it'll be the fourth. And so I still have a routine that I go through to dismantle the car and get it ready for the painter, and not waste my time or his, so that everybody's happy and everything kind of just goes smoothly. So if you're enjoying the content here, as always, please do the like, the share, the subscribe, all that kind of stuff. We'll see you next time. Have a great day.